So Heidi, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to describe what it was like for you going through our one belief away method. I wasn't really calling it that at the time, but that's what it was that I was taking you through. So let's talk just a little bit, and you can share as little or as much as you want about your story. But what was going on? What was the struggle before we met? How were you feeling, and what made you feel like, I want to give this a shot?
I was struggling with my health. I was having a lot of colon issues. Um, I had tried everything, and I had mentioned to my doctor, I had seen an advertisement, had researched you on YouTube, and he said, let's give it a shot. And I will say, the time I have spent with you has done more to help me with my food issues and my colon than modern medicine. Like, the mind can really damage you as a person and restrict you from doing things that you think you can't do when you really can.
Yeah, that's powerful. Unfortunately, if our mind is running a program, if it has a set of beliefs that are moving us in a direction that's not good for us, it's very difficult to use willpower. I mean, you're very bright, very smart, very successful, and yet trying to use willpower to override those programs that were running in your mind, it just wasn't working.
Right. And I mean, it's changed. We just hit one little, we had like 4 sessions, but those 4 sessions has changed everything in my life, just not my health, my personal life, my professional life. I've lost 70 pounds because we don't think about losing weight. We think about being thin and eating healthy.
Yes.
And just like this morning, someone says, man, I was telling them that I was doing this, and they were like, wonder if you could help me. They're like, I just love food. And I'm like, well, it's okay to love food, but you have to love the right foods and get them in moderation. And they're like, oh, so.
Yeah. See, right now you just shared 2 new programs that your mind is running, because your mind has the power to harm us, but it also has the power to heal and empower us. And you're talking right now, instead of losing weight, you're talking about being thinner, healthier, having more energy, right? Instead of thinking that you can't eat food, or you can't eat sugar, or you can't go to your favorite treats anymore. You're like, no, you just change it so that you don't get rid of your cravings. You just start craving healthier energy food. Right. And so it's a different approach, which is why it works. I mean, you dropped 70 pounds. That's a big deal. That's a huge goal that you hit. And that was part of what you wanted to accomplish, but you came in for a very specific goal, and we were able to help that. And because it's like a domino effect, you knock over some of those old beliefs and you replace them with more empowering beliefs. And then all of a sudden, all these other positive things happen. You say it had a positive effect on your whole life. So before we talk about, what's happened, let's go back into the middle. When we first started doing this, how did you think about it? Were you skeptical? Were you like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I've tried everything else. What was going on in your mind?
I was skeptical, but it was almost like there was no other resort. I had been to 4 different health systems, multiple doctors, and I was like, there's something that I need to change as a person. It was food texture issues. I didn't eat certain foods. Food was pretty much the healthy foods were the devil to me, as I used to call them. I ate everything that was bad for me, and it damaged my colon. So now, I'm eating healthier, eating more natural, more organic, and it's really helping.
Yeah. So let's break that down for a second. So when I first met you, it was almost like it's impossible for me to eat these types of foods, these healthy foods. It's something in my brain, that just won't let that happen. And now you're talking about how you eat healthy foods, you eat organic foods, you're eating those foods that you said were impossible to eat. So when we go back, a year ago or whenever it was, when you felt like it was impossible, that was a lie, because it was possible. You just didn't know how to do it. You didn't know the right combination for your mind. And once you got that combination, boy, you ran with it and really have taken off. So I guess that's the point, that a lot of times we tell ourselves that it's this way, or it won't work for me, or we let all our fears get in the way, when actually that's not the case. That's not really what's going on.
Correct. Yes. It was crazy because before I met you, I could literally like try to eat a salad and I could not swallow it.
Yeah.
It, you could hide a piece of lettuce in food and I would find it and it would not go down. I mean, it was ridiculous. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, my friends look at me when I eat a salad and they're like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
But they see that I'm happier, I'm healthier, just opening that one aspect of my mind has opened up so many others. And you said that, there was things that I held back at the beginning, and we've talked about this before, where I wasn't able to swallow pills. I had issues with giving people affection, like hugging, my parents would get hugs on Christmas, New Year's, their birthdays. Other than that, I just wasn't an affectionate person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I hug people. I'm actually in a relationship after 7 years.
Oh,
I mean, it's just,
yay.
everything has changed. Like everything has opened up to allow me to be the person that I've always wanted to be, but that I couldn't be.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy for you. So delighted. And I will tell you that, the physical symptoms that manifest often are because of the emotions that we experience. So when we have trouble with our colon, it's often because emotionally we feel tight, repressed, afraid to release or let go, and then it targets that part of the body. Louise Hay wrote a great book that talks about the different parts of our body and how we store emotion in there and how it gets expressed. Now you have, that one aspect, which I call belief, which is why my book's called, with Joe Vitale is called One Belief Away, because you're just one belief away from creating a shift. And now you're showing affection and you're giving hugs and you're allowing yourself to have this, which is going to have a hugely powerful healing effect in your body.
Correct.
And you've had that experience, obviously.
Yeah. We met about it. It was, I think, a year ago in a couple of days.
Yeah.
It was our first session.
So it's almost like our 1-year anniversary, and here
Right.
you are. Yeah. And we spent about 4 hours together, and you took it from there. And so I'm so proud of you. But it shows how in 4 hours, and in our first session, from our first session, things started changing, which I always tell people in our very first session, we're going to start getting results because we're dealing with the source and not the symptom.
Right.
So as you were going through the sessions, what was going on in your mind? How were things changing? What was happening inside of you?
Well, it's just like that night I came home after my first session. I started to go take my pill, and the next thing I know, I swallowed it without even having to force it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is going, I'm like, I didn't even tell him about this. I'm like, because I almost didn't feel asleep, but yet it's so weird. It's a very relaxing feeling. Like when you leave there, it's just, you're so refreshed and you feel like you could conquer anything that day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still listen to your tapes at night,
mm-hmm.
just to keep me up and going. And you have a very calming and soothing and encouraging voice.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you share that with everyone.
Well, thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. Yeah. Years of sitting in a room with people going, now go ahead and close your eyes.
Right.
And so another important aspect is you continued to have positive changes in your life, from healing your body, eating healthy, feeling happy, being in a loving relationship after 7 years, showing more affection. I mean, that's just all. I mean, one of those things is so amazing and impressive. And you're doing all of this. And one of the reasons why is because you're still listening to the recordings. You're still feeding your mind those positive messages. And sometimes people say, well, how long do I have to do that? I'm like, well, how long do you want to feel good?
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah. So when you think about going back to the old way, do you think you could ever go back to that old way of thinking or that old way of acting?
No, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes I'll have I call it a splurge meal. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I wake up and I just feel, certain foods just make you feel icky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they taste good, but once they're in you, ugh.
right. It's amazing how foods and, you know, I've changed just everything around me, you know,
Yeah.
everything is different.
Yeah. Well, and it started with changing your mindset. We had to go. I mean, when we first met, you had gone to 4 different places. They were having you try medicines or different procedures or all these different tools. And those don't change mental habits. And when you get in there and you upgrade your mental software, and you upgrade those beliefs, then this is the kind of results that people get. And it lasts, because people are like, well, what if it doesn't last? Well, it's been over a year now, a year and a couple of days, and it just seems like it keeps getting better. And the idea of going back to any of that, yuck.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And that's what we want. So when you, when there's going to be people that are listening, I know that whenever we talk, people have been reaching out to you and asking you questions. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, because there's so many people that are struggling that don't have to be, and they just don't know what you and I know. And so I really appreciate you sharing this. What final message would you want to share with people if they're on the fence, or if they're not sure, you know, it worked for Heidi, but I don't know if it will work for me? What would you want them to know?
I mean, why not? You spend money on random crazy things every day that you don't use again. You know, it's mind-blowing, life-changing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it really is. So Heidi, thank you so much for sharing
Oh, you're
your
welcome.
story
Thank
and
you.
being an inspiration. Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to talk again and hear about all the other exciting things that are happening in your life.
Yes.